UFC fighting has always been exciting. The world of MMA fighters is full of big personalities and even bigger egos. That is really why none of us are surprised when some of these fighters really start to rub people the wrong way. And the biggest master of doing that would be Conor McGregor. He's been called one of the most hated UFC fighters ever. Why? Let's check out some of the reasons. He wants people to hate him. One of the biggest reasons I think McGregor is as hated as he is because he wants it like that. He wanted people to hate him. He built his entire stage persona around being the villain and getting people to take the time and give him attention. And it doesn't really seem like he cares whether or not that attention is good or bad. Unless you know him personally, and if you do, please let us know in the comments and share your thoughts. Then you don't really know how much of what he puts out there is really an act. I mean, I have to admit it could all be completely real and he could be as much of a creep as he portrays, or he could have a completely different personality at home and between friends. That's kind of what makes him interesting to watch and to hate. There's always that feeling of no real human being that could be that obnoxious, right? Or could they? But I'm sure that at least some of what he says is deliberate and planned around getting a rise out of people. Sure does succeed in doing that. He's actually really good. There's nothing more annoying than watching evil prosper over good or watching the villain beating the good guy. And with a villain like Conor McGregor, that's what ends up happening time after time. Most of us would rather see the good guy kicking the villain's behind, but when the villain is such an impressive fighter as McGregor, there's times there is just no way it will always happen. He is just too good to be beaten each time. That's why he managed to get championship titles and belts along the way. But each time he wins, it just inspires people who already don't like him to start hating him, especially if they're rooting for the other guy. This isn't really his fault, but still, it is one of the reasons that people started hating him. Winning is kind of the entire point, so I doubt McGregor will just stop in order to get people to like him, or because we don't like it. But then we would hate him for being such a loser anyway, so it would achieve absolutely nothing. His trash talk. Talking trash before a fight is kind of a tradition in any sort of fighting sports. Some of the best fighters of all time were known for going big in the trash talk department. But now with social media, those comments are out there for everyone around to see, and they stick around for years. Something that might have just been trash talk in the weeks and months before a fight can sound really bad in a few years' time. But that isn't even always the main issue with McGregor and his trash talk. He can go over the line with it and just take it too far. He likes to push the envelope, and we get that. It can be fun and entertaining to watch, but there are some unwritten rules, and breaking them can make you seriously unpopular. Like the time he said that Eddie Alvarez's family wouldn't be able to recognize him after the fight. People were angry, saying that family's off limits, don't speak about them. And there's the little issue of trash talking other fighters who you aren't going to fight. McGregor doesn't mind sharing his opinion on any fighter, even if he has no former beef with that fighter and isn't set to face him. He says what he wants to say, he doesn't care who he offends. Other UFC fighters don't like him. Like I said, he doesn't care who he offends, and it seems like he enjoys messing with his fellow fighters. His attitude hasn't gotten him a lot of friends, and many believe that if you can dish it out, then you better be willing to take it. Even fighters who don't normally have too much to say on other opponents have spoken out about McGregor, making him one of the most hated fighters inside the league too. And those fighters also have fans that are willing to listen to them, creating a vicious circle of hate where the feelings towards McGregor keep spreading out. It is something that he has brought on himself, but at the same time, it isn't always entirely fair. But that's the world of fighting, I guess. His own fans don't win him points either. McGregor might be one of the most hated people in the UFC, but he is also one of the most loved. He has loads of fans, and most of them are following him on social media and listening to everything he says. Now, I just have to say, stans of any person tend to become a bit toxic, and most of McGregor's fans are just normal people who appreciate the way he fights. But there are a few who take his comments and completely run with it. These people believe that everything he says is perfect, and they'll follow it all almost like a set of instructions. This can create a toxic and even at times a dangerous environment, and others blame McGregor for the actions that his fans take. Or I should say, a small percentage of his fans do some wild stuff and say even worse things. It's pretty bad, but not entirely McGregor's fault either. Yes, he probably shouldn't say things that stir the pot as much as he does, but still, these fans should know where to draw the line too. It is pretty clear that there are loads of people who hate Conor McGregor, but just as many people who actually really like him. Still, some of the biggest reasons that people have to hate him are coming up next, so stick around to check out what they are. He is arrogant. Conor McGregor is a fighter who has an abundance of confidence inside and outside of the ring, but many have said that his confidence is just plain old arrogance and that it makes him even less likable, which I have to admit is a problem. Most of what he says can be backed up in the ring, and he's proven why he has plenty of reason to be completely confident. Sometimes he can't completely deliver. That's when he gives people reason to berate him. He's lost a few fights against contenders who have massive fan bases and who he was very vocal about easily beating before the fight. This gives people the opening to mock and hate him, and he can't really blame him when they do. He's always been the bad boy of the UFC, but there are just times when he takes it too far and takes a lot of enemies along the way. He flaunts his wealth. People love to hate people who are loaded, especially if those people like to flaunt their wealth for the entire world to see. And McGregor does that. He likes to show people just how much he can afford, and he regularly posts pictures that can make many people really jealous. It can be pictures of him flying on private planes, fancy holidays that he takes, normally with his family included, or some of the fancy clothes he wears. Conor McGregor likes the finer things, and he posts pictures for his followers to see just how crazy his lifestyle can be. I mean, this is a guy that has been known to post pictures of actual stacks of cash all around him. He's not modest when it comes to his money, and there's a lot that have been said that flaunting it in everyone's face is really distasteful. I get it. Most of us were taught that showing off is not classy or cool and that it shouldn't be done, even if you do have the money. But the thing is, he's worked really hard for everything he has. He's earned it with literal blood, sweat, and maybe even some tears. Makes it more understandable. Still, it could be a bit distasteful when you know that many people in the world are really struggling at the moment. Still, he gives back too, and I guess he can do what he wants with his money, even if some will definitely hate him for it. He's supposedly disloyal and he doesn't follow the rules. But two of the biggest reasons that people have said that they hate Conor McGregor because he isn't loyal. He breaks all the rules. There are certain codes that most MMA fighters are expected to follow. Conor just doesn't. Who could forget that infamous belt snatch event? And that has caused a lot of people to hate him. He has also left some of his old sparring mates and team behind, and that has caused many to say he's disloyal. How do you feel about Conor McGregor? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.